Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, welcome to my guest today. We have back, this is great, we have Brenda Sullivan back with us from the Gravestone Girls. She is the proprietrix of this great outfit. Welcome back, Brenda. It's been, what, a couple, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, been a couple of years.
And I noticed down in the Upton Library, they had a wonderful announcement. The Gravestone Girls are going to have a virtual tour of Upton's local cemeteries. How cool is this?
It'll be fabulous. In preparation for the program, I will come out to town now that spring has finally decided to come, or summer.
Hopefully.
Summer's finally decided to show up. I'll come out into town ahead of time. I'll go to all 6 of your cemeteries in town. I'll take pictures.
We have 6?
Yes.
I thought we had 2.
No, you've got 6.
There's
The
an old-
historic record.
Yeah.
So what it is the records that I can pull show me what's existed at any point in time. They may not still exist, but part of my job is to go out and find them, map them if they've been sort of lost over time, and I take pictures in each one of those cemeteries, and I use that to build my program. I want as much local content as possible, so I should be able to get out there in the field and really go from your colonial period through the 19th century garden cemetery movement, and then we'll peek in on what's going on here and now with what we're putting on our gravestones of the 21st century.
Well, it's going to be, here's a picture on the flyer.
It's a winter picture. The pictures are going to look a lot different. They'll be
Right.
fresh, new spring pictures.
Lakeview Cemetery, which we all know is overlooking the pond. And so you're going to be going there pretty soon to get all this, right?
Yes. Yep, we've got good weather coming up, so I'll be going out.
So this is going to be Monday, May 21st, 6:30 to 8 at the Upton Senior Center. Okay, if you're out of town, whatever, Upton Senior Center, you can Google it, get the address. May 21st, it's a Monday, 6:30 to 8, and you're going to have some great things to show people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How long have you been doing this, Brenda?
Hobbyist about as long as I've been alive, which I'm not putting a number on. But really, as Gravestone Girls for just about 20 years.
Yeah.
And professionally, in terms of all the education that we do, all the different programming, yeah, pretty close to 20
And you
years.
have 1 or 2 other women who work with you.
I do. I have 2 other fabulous ladies that really, they work behind the scenes to keep everything together. I have Melissa, if you follow us on Facebook, she is our web mistress, Zipporah, that is her gravestone name. And she does all of our social media work and web work. And my other best friend, Maggie, that I grew up with just over 2 towns over in Southborough.
Yeah.
She also helps with the creations and the ideas and a lot of stuff that keeps me going when you see me out in the field, or at the programming, at the arts and crafts and shows that we do.
Brenda gets all over the country for the
I get
Gravestone
around.
Girls. Where do you live?
I live in Worcester.
Ah!
So it's actually kind of good because you can go an hour in
Oh,
any
you said-
direction.
You must do
and
a lot
I'm
of
in New
plane-
Hampshire. And,
Plane travel?
Yep. Anywhere they take me. Anywhere I get
So
to go.
people will invite you
Yes.
and pay for you to come.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
A lot of the travel I do outside of New England is me taking my artwork to
them.
the different arts and craft shows around the
I
country.
think that's awesome. She's brought with us, she's going to show, take us over to your stones here, your gravestones, and show
Sure.
us what they mean.
So what they are is they are made for a little photo montage of some of the pieces that we've created that are in the Gravestone Girls collection. There is, at this point, close to 200 pieces. We take impressions directly from the base of the original gravestones, and from there, that allows us to get the art home, and we then make a master mold from there. We cast from that master and then hand finish them. So it's the art exactly as it appears on the faces of the originals, and it really is indicative of the different timelines of art and society that shows up in our cemeteries.
Why was it so ghoulish? It just seems so different than what we have now.
It is. It's very different. It has everything to do with the type of lifestyle at the time and religious beliefs. And so the folks of the time, when that first ghoulish art shows up, the winged skulls and the crossbones and the skeletons and all of that, those are reflective of people that are very religious, very superstitious. They're really following the Bible to the letter. They lived with the specter of death every day. They understood that it was around every corner and anything could happen at any time.
Well, they didn't live as long as like people are living into their hundreds now, so they didn't live as long.
They really were much more, if you think about the people of the 16 and 1700s, they're spending every day just really trying to survive.
Yeah.
Making the clothes, getting the food, keeping warm, keeping dry, having shelter. There's no medicine the way we know it today.
Yeah.
So things that we don't even think about, you get a cut on your finger, you get an infection, something like that. We don't even think about it. You put some antibiotic on it and a Band-Aid and you're good to go. But it could have been fatal 300 years ago.
One of Brenda's presentations, I think you were teaching us that they were actually buried foot to foot, is it?
No, the gravestones themselves were in two parts. There was a headstone and a footstone.
Mm-hmm.
So the headstone marks the beginning of the grave. The footstone marks the end of the grave. So if you had father and you buried him and he's 6 feet tall, there's a 6-foot spread between his headstone and footstone. And if you buried mother next to him and she was 5 feet tall, there would originally have been about a 5-foot spread between her headstone and footstone.
So those little
That's been
stones
changed over time.
Okay, so those little stones that we see once in a while could still be a throwback to that, right?
Oh, absolutely. They typically get moved out. So pretend you're the guy that has to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
And you have to mow around all of these stones, big ones and little ones, all in different places because they were originally put out there based on the height of the occupant.
Sure.
That's kind of a pain, particularly as we start getting into the 19th century and certainly into the 21st century. So if we're lucky, those little footstones got picked up and moved out and they made their own row. If we're lucky, they get tucked up behind the parent stone. If we're not so lucky, off they go. They disappear for whatever reason.
I'm wondering if a lot of these guys that are out there mowing the lawn can tell the difference between a footstone and somebody's baby that was buried there. And that's tricky.
No, you know what? It's difficult to tell. And a lot of people think that those small stones, because those footstones get pushed out and made into their own row.
Right.
A lot of people say, oh, look at those tiny stones. There's a whole row of them. Those must be for children. Chances are much better that they're actually the footstone. Yeah. And the footstone will have initials or a name on it, something like that will tie it to the big one.
So it will, okay.
Yeah, so you can identify it.
Brenda, show us some more on there.
So we've got all kinds of goodies. Some of my earliest pieces, late 1600s, early 1700s. Death and Father Time. The urn is the vessel that carries the body to the next world. A lot of winged skulls. The first commonly used normal for that time. It's a soul symbol. And when you see things like that human-looking image, that's still a soul symbol. It's just later on. The belief system said you had one immortal soul. Your job was to keep it clean and free of sin so that when you left this world and you were judged to get to the next world, you could be judged favorably. This was where all the hard stuff happened.
Yeah.
How you held up under that and got to the better reward, got to the next world was what it was all about.
It's so different nowadays. You're going to be going down to Foxborough. That's the graveyard where my parents are, the cemetery. And they do it up. They do a beautiful job keeping the graves, but also people are really decorating. Family are putting cute little things all over. Mm-hmm. Some graveyards don't allow it, but they do allow it where my parents are buried, and it is beautifully kept up.
Yeah.
I love the little tchotchkes that they put on things.
Some cemeteries will encourage it, some don't, because it gets in the way of the groundskeeping. Yeah. And also it can be, some of these cemeteries, these modern cemeteries, want to keep more of a pastoral look across the landscape, so they don't want it to be busy. They want it to sort of all blend together and be natural looking. But the cemeteries that allow people to put these objects out, that it draws visitors in. You can tell that people are coming to visit. Yeah. You can tell who they were and what they enjoyed by those trinkets that are left. The bus driver that gets the little matchbox bus left on the gravestone.
You were the one who taught us that. When I went to that Grafton Library, Brenda was there, and what was I just going to say? Oh, back in the old days, people would actually, have a picnic at their dead loved one's life.
I love how everybody thinks that that's such an oddity, and it's really. I can tell you two things about that. One, that was such a normal thing to do
really?
In the 19th century. those cemeteries, when they moved from being graveyards and being stark, puritanical, desolate places comparatively, to being park-like, like in Mount Auburn Cemetery in 1831 was the first one to be called a cemetery, the first one to have green grass and rolling hills and be a place of open green space, where it was a very social place. People were absolutely encouraged to come and sit and visit amongst the living because you were all out there picnicking, as well as commune with nature. You've got Hawthorne and Thoreau and all those writers at the time writing about nature conservation. It was all about coming and participating in all that and remembering the people that went before. They're physically gone, but they're not forgotten by being able to go out.
Perhaps their spirit is right there with you.
That's what they thought.
I'd love to think of that, but I don't see it now. You go to the cemetery, you see some people watering, but you don't see people with chairs sitting there right over the gravestone. I don't think
you don't around New England.
No,
we are still very, very puritanical when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
As soon as you get out of New England, really anywhere out of New England, particularly those 19th century cemeteries are actually quite active, and a lot of it has to do with being able to raise funds to keep the place going. You can only sell a certain amount of burial spots, and once those are filled, that's it.
So if you're going to have a picnic there, you pay to have a picnic?
Well, the cemeteries, a lot of the cemeteries that I work with take it one step further. Here we will have book readings or tours or something rather sedate. To get people in, we might charge them a fee at the gate. There are cemeteries in this country that are having wine tastings and beer tastings and yoga and book club and dog washing.
As long as it's not dog something else.
And there's a number of places that you can pay a fee for your dog to go in and walk. Congressional Cemetery in Arlington, Virginia, is one of them that really kind of pioneered that. And the folks in the area, they pay a hefty fee.
Well, they must be going on a trail. They can't be going in and out.
They are allowed to run loose. And different cemeteries will make provisions for on leash or off, but Congressional allows them to be loose.
So the groundskeepers have a heck of a time.
You are responsible when you pay, and the fee that you pay for some of these places to bring your dog in can be several $100s a year. And part of the contract is you're responsible for cleaning up after your dog. If they figure out that you're not holding up your end of the deal by cleaning up after your animal, you don't get to come back. And you've lost your money. So
we're talking with Brenda Sullivan, and she's the proprietrix of the Gravestone Girls. She's been on with us before, and I know she has on May 21st, Monday, May 21st, 6:30 to 8 at the Upton Senior Center. You will be doing a virtual tour.
I will indeed.
And you get to sit there, and she'll show you. You just sit there and enjoy it, and she'll explain everything to you. Was that like what happened in Grafton that time?
Yeah, that's a very common program that I take
very
to
enjoyable.
A number of.
Very.
I work with a lot of libraries. I probably do a program like that, maybe 25 or 30 of them a year.
And you had some books there we could look at too.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I go out with resources. So in preparation to come to town, I've got a book done by the head of the New England Historical Genealogical Society, and it's just called A Guide to Massachusetts Cemeteries.
Right.
And that's all it is. It's by town, and it's the cemeteries within that town. I take that book with me. I use it up against my atlas. I map out my route to try and find everybody. Also, there's a Find a Grave app that also helps me locate where places are in town. Because I like a checked off list.
You do.
If I've got 10 things on the list, I want to go find them.
There is a very, very old cemetery. It's in Upton. I think they call it off Old Westboro Road. Very old. I think I'm one of the ministers.
It might be your oldest one.
The minister
I would have
from
to
our
look.
town, one of the United Parish, very, very, very long ago, maybe the 1700s, 1800s.
Oh yeah,
I think he's buried over there.
There are 1700s in there for sure. We had trouble finding that one.
It's right off.
It's off the road, and it's really over hill, over dale, over the railroad tracks and through. But I believe, and I haven't started or haven't completed my research yet, but I from being in there previously. I believe that's one of your oldest ones in town.
And then Lakeview Cemetery, where you're going to be talking about, across the street from, I'd say, the more modern, where a lot of us are going to be residing, I guess. But anyway, across the street is a very old cemetery.
Yeah.
You can tell by the stones.
Yeah, absolutely. The landscape, if you pass by a cemetery, you only need to know a couple of basic things to just stand at the gate and say, oh, I'm looking for something from the 1700s. Nope, this isn't right. I won't find it in here. By the geology, by the shape and size of the stones, by the landscape. So you can tell that Lakeview, just by its name, Lakeview is a 19th century cemetery.
Yeah.
Because there's all these euphemisms at the time about that connection to nature. So Lakeview,
1800s.
Mountain View,
Yeah.
Oakdale, a lot of putting the names around the idea of having it be a communal place, a spacious place, open green space.
Now, besides coming up in Upton, where are you going to be locally here in New England coming up?
Where am I not going to be? I've had a bunch of programs already in places like Attleboro and Boxborough. They were great. I'm going to be leading a tour this Saturday at Manchester by the Sea. Way up, I couldn't go any farther up the New England northeast corner of Massachusetts. I'm doing a cemetery tour at Rosedale Cemetery. I've got any number of arts and crafts shows and tours and lectures coming up. I have my other Gravestone girl, that's my webmistress. She keeps all of that stuff together. I have to look at my own calendar on the website or on Facebook to find out where I'm going to be next. But
Do you
there's
have
a lot
favorite,
of stuff.
Brenda, where you've been, something that really, really you were just awed by?
Yeah, I always get asked that question, and it's so difficult because I've been in cemeteries all over the world, and there's every one of them has something good. I will always walk in and see something that I haven't seen before.
Where have you been? Scotland, Ireland, England, everywhere?
I haven't done any of the UK yet. That is on the list.
Yeah.
Spain. Last summer we were in Spain and Italy.
Yeah.
I've been through France, Slovenia, Austria.
Slovenia.
I've been. I just came back in February from 3 weeks in Taiwan and China.
Yeah. That has got to be absolutely fascinating. You must have like a book full of photographs.
Thank God for digital.
Oh, okay.
Because if I had to,
Really?
you remember when you used to take pictures with film?
Yeah.
You'd have just so many rolls, and if you were out in the field
I know.
and you run out, of course, the next thing you wanted to take a picture of, you were out of film.
Yeah, you probably have a lot of memory books, right? Filled with pictures.
Yeah, from all my journeys. And
Brenda,
such.
how can people get a hold of you?
Oh, this is good. Easy. We're omnipresent. So the website is www.gravestonegirls.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Gravestone Girls as well.
Now, if somebody would like to have you come, they're watching out there, have you come
Yes,
and
come.
now they can reach
Invite
you
me.
very easily, right?
Yes.
They can, and you're probably pretty booked for the next how many months, right?
Well, we do this year round, so
Okay.
it's there's certainly dates left. There are some times of the year that are busier than others. I've been known to do a program in the morning and then go someplace else in the evening. I come in from Michigan often, that particular show, and on my way home I stop and do a program somewhere and keep going.
And you just keep going. And Worcester, there's Hope Cemetery. That's a biggie.
It is.
That's
Hope
where
is our
my great-grandparents
19th
are there.
century rural garden
That is
cemetery.
real. But try to find your relative there.
It's hard. They're working on that. They are working on that.
There's a St. John's too.
Yes, St. John's is on the back side of the.
Which is older?
Hope was our first rural cemetery, and I used to be on the board, so I should know the answer to this, but I believe it was established about 1853, 1856, something like that.
Now, over in Northbridge, I think, is it Pleasant View or what is it? A friend of mine is buried over there.
You've
Near
got
the high
an
school.
Oakwood there.
Near the high school in Northbridge, Whitensville. I can't think of the name of it, but and then of course my parents are in Foxborough. I can't think of the name of that one either, but I just
That's
know
okay,
where
as long as you know where it is.
as long as why, did you ever get to go in any of the mausoleums and look around?
Oh, God, yes. One of my favorite things.
Oh.
I have been. So a mausoleum is a freestanding.
Yeah.
It is. There are no in the ground interments. They're above ground, like being inside a house. I have seen them small enough to hold one or two, and I have been in them that are meant to hold, from a private family point of view, might hold 25 or 30.
What, they stacked on each other?
They're very large structures. Some of these that I've seen are as big as the houses some of my friends
So
live in.
one person's on top of the other.
No, they're actually in their own niches. So it's kind of like if you thought about library shelves.
Sure.
Like
Yeah,
that.
Okay.
Stacks, if you will, but they're not actually stacked on each other. There's a separate structure, but the individual niches are all connected together. I've seen mausolea, and that's the plural. So if you learn one thing from me, my latest crusade is mausoleum is one, mausolea is two or more. Is plural. It's not mausoleums. Just a pet peeve.
I know a lot of people, I'm not in favor, enthused about it, but people go for cremation. What do you see many urns that look different nowadays? They didn't do that so much back in the old days.
Oh yeah.
They do.
So cremation comes in around the mid 1800s in terms of building crematories in this country.
Yeah.
But cremation has been practiced back to the ancient Greeks
Really?
and Romans. Yeah, sure.
Sometimes the families will have an urn there, or they'll split Grandpa up and they'll have him a different urn.
Oh yeah. Yep, my mother's on that. I want some of me over here with your dad. I want some of me over there with my family.
I've heard some nightmares though with some of these crematoriums. You may not get who you think you're getting.
That's what they say.
Yeah, that bothers me. Honestly, we didn't do that in my family, but it has always haunted me that I might not get who I think I'm getting.
As long as you think it is, you're okay.
I hope. So now, where you're going to be over there? You're going to be going to Michigan again, did you say? And
All over the place. Coming up in the next few months, so I'm on the Cape next Saturday in Sandwich.
What town? In Sandwich?
In Sandwich at the library. I do
Okay.
a number of craft shows with them through the year. They're a great group. All the money that's raised goes to the library. They've raised over $40,000 over the years for the library. The Asparagus Festival is the following Saturday
Where's
out
that?
in Brookfield. Out in West Brookfield. I get all my Brookfields mixed up. If you want fun, the Asparagus Festival is fun.
Is it all asparagus?
It's exactly what you think it is. It celebrates the idea that the man that brought asparagus to this country
Right.
settled and is buried in West Brookfield.
Well, Gary Blanchard, who is our musician, he does all the score for the shows and everything, the intro. He lives in West Brookfield. He probably knows all about this.
It's a fun time. It's out on their green. It's out in the center of town on their green. There's arts and crafts like my stuff. There are people with their spring plants where you can go and buy all your new plantings for the final warm season. There's all kinds of food that's made with asparagus.
Right there in West Brookfield.
Yeah,
On the common.
There's on the common. There's music. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
When
and
is
it's
that gonna
a great
be
day. That is Saturday the 19th.
Oh, we're going to wrap this up. We've been talking with Brenda Sullivan. She's the proprietress of the Gravestone Girls. Many of you have heard about them, and they're pretty popular.
Yeah.
And they're going to be over at May 21st on a Monday, 6:30 to 8 at the Upton Senior Center. She's going to give you a video presentation. Well, I call it video, but it's
It's a virtual tour. It
Okay,
is. It's a
great.
PowerPoint presentation,
Should
but
people-
it's a virtual tour. You don't have to go out. It's too hot out now. No one's going out again until September or whatever. But
Should they
it's a
get
way
there
to see
early?
it all.
Brenda, maybe get there for a seat.
I will tell you that most of my programs, I hear back from my librarians or whoever that they say, I never had to bring out extra chairs before.
That's what
or-
happened, I think, at Grafton. We got there
Word gets out.
pretty early, but boy, people, I think some were standing. So I think
Everybody's interested for one reason or another.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a little taboo about, I can't talk about I can't tell people I like the cemetery because they'll think I'm weird.
No,
But-
yeah. No, I think it's great because it's fascinating to
Yeah.
me.
Well, when I tell people what I do,
Yeah.
most of the time, first words out of their mouth are, "Oh, I love the cemetery. Let me tell you my favorite cemetery story. I grew up next to one. I walk my dog there. I took my kids there.
Quiet neighbors.
Quiet neighbors. Absolutely.
Brenda, thanks for being with us. And folks, go see her on May 21st at the Upton Senior Center. We'll see you next time. Will you be my guest?
Thanks.